I think there's a lot that I want to say in terms of how I came up with the title Rituals of Colour. First of all, I knew that I wanted to make work exclusively for the show. I knew that I didn't want to curate pieces with the gallery from works that were already in my studio. I knew I wanted to do something fresh, challenge myself to kind of go deeper within myself and find my voice in a different way. And so I was just my works definitely deals with the self in terms of questioning who we are, why we're here, why we behave the way that we do. And so in that respect, I definitely wanted to look back at my own practice and the work that I've done and go, okay, what speaks to me in my own work? What really stands out to me, and what can I take from that and go further with? And I know that I use a lot of colour, and I was just wondering, why do I use colour a lot? Why does colour sort of resonate with me? When I think of colour, I think of sound, and I think of music, I think of movement, and those are things that massively come into my own journey as an individual, as an artist, as a performer, from my kind of performance background and music background. And so I just realised when I look at colour, I don't look at colour in a very logical way. I don't look at it in, say, the colour red and go, like you look at red and one thinks of like love, falling in love or something deep and passionate. And I don't really, I can see why people would like interpret colour that way, but I think that it's so deep in terms of you can find more than one interpretation to it, that's a language that I would like to play with. And what I mean by a language that I would like to play with is that I don't like looking at things in a kind of literal sense. I like parables and poetry and playing with meaning and playing with perspective. And so colour for me plays with perspective, it plays with meaning and gets the viewer to think further than literal interpretation. And so the word ritual came from, when you think of ritual, you think of behavior. When you think of behavior, you think of patterns and how things are done. And so that's kind of like how the title came up, because people can think of ritual, and ritual can seem like a very kind of stiff word, but I don't mean it from a kind of religious, confined, or sort of like obvious kind of way. I mean in terms of looking at behavior and looking at why we do what we do. One of my favorite parts of the exhibition is upstairs, kind of like the brain room of the space. And Alex, who runs the gallery, and myself were working on downstairs. We'd finished and we left upstairs to the last moment. And it's really special because that's where all my drawings are, and there's a little sort of installation of my notebooks and pens and crayons and pencils out, and that's just a real playground moment for me. Like when I make my work in my studio, that's where I just feel, it just feels so fun and it feels so free. That's really what happens in that small space for me when I'm drawing, is kind of what happens, is that translated onto a canvas. And someone was saying to me, they were going like, oh, they find drawings hard because the space is small, and so the artist is restricted, so that means you have to find less to say. And that's kind of true. But for me, it's just, I just do. I don't think about, I haven't got to the stage of, does anyone like it? Or do I even like it? I think what is happening is I'm having fun. And it's almost like coming into a room and dancing. If you hear good music, it moves you. You can't but move. And so colour is like music. So when I see colour, it moves me. And so I'm moving, I'm responding to the colour. And it's almost like hearing a James Brown song and you hear that beat. And I don't start, having a debate about the beat. My body just moves. You hear like, or something, and you're like, okay, I want to move to that. But you don't start thinking, I don't start thinking, how do I want to move? You just move. And then later on you can go, do I like the way it looks? And so when I see colour's like music, it's sound. And that just kind of comes to me now when I think about it. Yeah, it's like sound, and so I'm dancing, and it's a dance on the page. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, oh, hello, okay, that's the image. And so upstairs in the exhibition, I'm glad that we put that together, and I hope people remember to go upstairs, and I hope that they really can get a sense of that play and excitement, and that's kind of the beginning of what you see happening on the canvas for me. I definitely wanted to play with the figurative more, so I was looking back at my work again and say, when I paint, I'm always obsessed with bodies and the language of body and how the position of your body can say a lot. You know, I come from, again, a film background, and physical language is a lot. If someone was to sit like this and, you know, close their arms, it gives off a certain kind of energy. Or if I sat like this, like in a really relaxed sort of way, or, you know, your body, the way you move says something. And so I'm fascinated by playing again with language, but physical language with the body in a painting, and not presenting it in an obvious way. So why do the arms come behind the neck like this in a particular way? And also, why not? And if I do paint something that way, what am I trying to say? And getting us to think about, that's a really interesting thing. That's a really interesting way to look at, you know, a body, the position of that body, and then the color of that body, and then where it is in relation to everything else. And so, again, the show really plays with figures, and I think the female figure comes in a lot, and it's kind of, I guess people could be critical and go like, he's a man, why is he just painting women, and you see like breasts and a vagina, etc., etc., and it can come across arguably as, you know, well, typical, a man's going to paint a woman's body. But actually I think, yes, visually I think a woman's body visually is more interesting. I do, but at the same time I am interested in the female figure being the center of a narrative as well, because I think sometimes a man is always at the forefront of a narrative. You know, in art, it's always like through a man's voice. So I'm just in a very simplistic way going, well, actually, I'm just going to make it a woman. Why can't it be a woman that's central to that narrative? And also, sometimes you might see breasts, but then the face looks like it could be a face of a man. And so the essence of it really is not to contextualize or like make it specific to a man or woman, but to be every person that's involved in that painting. Yeah. There was a member of the public walked into the gallery and they went, oh, this isn't an exhibition. And I was like, what do you mean? They went, oh, it's an exploration of your mind. And I was like, okay. It's funny how you know, people walk into galleries, and because of how I've set the space up, they're looking at it differently. And in this show, I've written the titles of the paintings on the wall. And I did that because you can sometimes walk into a gallery and you get the title of the painting on a card, maybe, and or sometimes no title. Or let's say if the title is on the wall, it's in a very slick italic or whatever text, which I think is great. And then you have the painting. And that gives a certain kind of, if we're talking about visual language, that makes the audience member, the person viewing the painting, go, okay, this is something that's very important. I have to stand here, I can't move close. And that's cool. But what I want to do with my work, and especially in this space, is that when I make the work, it's very visceral. It's something that I physically feel a lot of the time. And when people see the work, they always engage with it in that way. So I wanted to go further and say, let's write the titles on the wall. For me, what that does is that it brings a viewer closer, and they can engage in a different way. And also they see my handwriting, which is a different kind of energy than just typed text, because I read a book recently saying like your writing reveals who you are, or something like that. And so it's about getting the viewer closer, for me, to the artist, as it were, closer to the actual making of the work, and allowing it to feel more tangible. because I think we've got to this place where everything feels quite, especially that fact that we even have a screen in front of ourselves all the time, that sensibility of touch, not physical touch like this, but a different kind of engagement energy can kind of get lost, and we've got so used to this and looking at things far away. So I guess my work, I'm trying to break that, one with color and two with the use of actually writing it out. And so when one comes into the gallery, they see what I think about the work rather than the gallery sort of writing, Adébayo Bolaji's practice and blah 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 blah. No, I've written it and said kind of welcome to the space, kind of welcome to my world, as it were, which goes in line with the film as well I've made. The film is basically a little spit kind of exploration into how I think about my work or how I engage with making my work. It's only like 2 to 3 minutes long, and it's not everything. It doesn't show completely how I make work in the space completely, but it's just a moment. And I think letting the viewer into the process is really important. I think it just makes it different. It makes it exciting rather than always walking into a space and just seeing the work and leaving. And I think if you think about when an artist has a retrospective, everyone gets excited because they're like, I saw the Picasso 1932 at the Tate, which is looking at all his work in 1 year, but then you've got little kind of artifacts and stuff that people can look in and see, and everyone gets really excited because they feel like, we can possibly know why he made this or how he made that. And I think that, well, an artist can do that now. I don't have to have a retrospective to do that. I can bring an audience member, I say audience member, I always use that word, but you can bring a viewer closer to that process in your work now, and they don't have to have the artist physically here in the gallery so they can, ask questions, but they can just feel more connected to it. And I don't mean that in a really self-indulgent way, like I want people to be connected to me, blah, blah, blah. No, I just think people are generally looking for connection. I think people have yearning for that sense to feel, and not just to intellectually examine, but you can have all your senses kind of wired. You can feel emotionally aroused or like excited, and you can feel intellectually stimulated. Why does it have to be one or the other? What do I want people to get from the show? An honest response, I think. I want them to respond honestly and not lie. Like, to come in, because for me, that's the way I work. So, I was like watching people coming into a space, and it's funny sometimes when people go into galleries, they also do this, they like put their arms behind their back when they look at a piece of artwork, and I wonder why does someone do that? Maybe it's because like it's a serious space, and so I have to be serious or something, I don't know. But I think just respond honestly to the work and if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, you like it. And I love when I see that real engagement and to really connect with the work and take time, because fine, we had an opening, and the opening was great, and people actually did really engage with the work, which doesn't always happen on openings because everyone's just drinking. But people did engage, but I think I really want people to have an honest response to it.